Okay, well, today I am so pleased to have with me Heidi Richardson. She is another contributor to the new InScribe anthology that's coming out, which is, of course, called Creativity and Chaos, Artistic Endeavors for Trying Times. It is so nice to see you, Heidi.
Yeah, nice to see you too.
Yes, really glad to talk to you today. So I see that your piece is in the memoir section. Of course, the book has so many good, such a variety of things, but yours is in the memoir, and it's called A Chronicle of Farm, Faith, and Creativity. That sounds really interesting. Can you just tell me a little bit more about that piece? Maybe what inspired it, and a little bit about the piece itself.
Oh, well, quite a few years ago, probably about 15 or 20 years ago, we almost lost everything on our farm. It was kind of like a series of, I don't know what you call, series of catastrophes. We kind of had three in a row that hit us, and we almost lost everything. So I had written that down originally just to remember what happened. And then when I knew I was going to be in the anthology, I kind of brought it up to speed to talk more about my creativity too. Because I was writing books back then, but I wasn't doing anything about publishing yet. So yeah, so it just kind of it just kind of chronicles one of the hardest things we've lived through so far.
Mhm.
Yeah, thank the Lord. Nothing's been too much harder yet.
Um, well, I mean, I guess, I'm sure that there will be people who can relate to that because, I can think right offhand as soon as you were saying that, people who've lost their farms or come near to that for a variety of different reasons, maybe poor financial situations, but certainly the price of grain and cattle and, just life happening. So, how did creativity sort of play in getting you through that difficult time?
I suppose it's because I just enjoy it. I just enjoy writing so much. So I just kept on writing, and I was trying a few forays out into the publishing business, to see if anybody would pick me up. Because I thought, well, if I get published, maybe it'll help my husband and get a little bit of extra money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of like our faith kind of went way down at that time.
Mm.
But then 2 or 3 years later, like we didn't lose our home and we didn't lose our land.
Mhm.
And that was because of God's intervention. He sent someone along to help us to help us keep those two things.
Yeah.
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 And like I said, our faith was really shaken, but looking back on it now, it actually caused a couple of good things to happen in our lives.
Mhm.
Um, and and we're still here on our land and in our home, so
Mhm.
it wasn't something that we couldn't overcome without the Lord's help. And He was there. And when I look back on it now, my faith, well, my faith grew actually because of that. Because when you go through something like that, you get a thought in your head like, the Lord doesn't like me,
Mm. Mm.
right? He's
That
throwing all
can
this
be, yeah.
trouble in our way. But then later you find out it's like that verse that nothing can separate you from the love of God.
Mm. Mhm.
You find out that you don't get separated from his love, and that even when something terrible is happening, he's still right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it causes your faith to grow once you come out of it and you lose your doubt. And you can look back and see the good things that came out of the event.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, and I guess that's the bottom line, isn't it? We want
Mm.
our experiences and certainly our writing to, at the end of the day, provide somebody else with hope, or
Yeah.
encouragement. So that's really
Mm.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, praise the Lord. Well, I'm glad it has a happy ending, although sometimes,
Yeah.
that don't always end happily also teach us good lessons.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting. So I take it when you mention, that you love writing and even before I started recording this, we were just chatting for a moment, and you had mentioned, that you'd been doing some writing and things like that. So you want to tell us a little bit more about that, just your creative journey um, thus far in life? Like when did you start writing, for instance? Let's start there.
I probably started telling stories before I could write. I used to try to get all the neighborhood kids to act out this story that I had in my head. But it didn't work very good because you can't beam your idea into somebody else's head.
Yeah.
So I'm always been telling stories. And of course I was raised on Disney and television and comic books and all that, and loved all of it. And I love telling my own stories, and I often used to just act them out myself. Pretend I had other actors with me. But
Beautiful.
yeah,
I love it.
yeah. And of course and as soon as I could write, I started writing stories, and especially in high school, you get higher up to that creative writing type spot. And I used to figure out what kind of writing the teacher liked, and then I would write like that, and then I'd get good marks.
Oh, interesting. Writing to your audience. Well, that's an important that's an important skill actually that probably
It's
has served you. Served-
it's not hard to find out what they like, so
Ah, I
you
see.
can tell by the writings they choose for you to read.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess that's very true. Having been an English teacher myself
yeah,
in past years, that is true. I subjected my students to a lot of science fiction. Not gonna lie.
yeah.
Ah, okay, well that's interesting. So have you written other pieces like for magazines, newspapers, so done any kind of submitting?
Not really. I did a little bit for our little church paper.
Mhm.
We had a little church paper for a couple of years, and I always put an article in there. And so I wrote for them. I tried to get on with the local newspaper, but it's a small town, and they don't do a lot of hiring.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah. Oh, I
Yeah.
should have mentioned in in high school. Yes, it was in high school. We had this Alberta-wide poetry contest, and it was supposed to be sort of poems in the vein of Dylan Thomas. He's a writer from Ireland.
Right.
He, he's the one who writes "Don't Go Quietly into the Dark" or something like that.
Yes. Oh, wow. Mm-hmm.
And I hadn't ever read him, but my creative writing teacher asked me if I could write a couple of sonnets, and then he asked me if he could put one of my sonnets in the contest. So I said, sure, go ahead. So he did, and then I won it.
Oh,
I
cool.
won the contest, and it was quite embarrassing because I was quite shy back then. And they called me up to the front of everybody in the gymnasium and shoved a microphone in my face, and they said, "How long have you been reading Dylan Thomas?"
Uh,
And of course, I'd never read him, so I said, "Not too long."
yeah, yeah, yeah. Last week.
Yeah, I
Oh boy.
didn't want to say I haven't even looked at his writing.
Yeah. Hmm. But I guess we find inspiration, wherever and those kind of encouragements from, say, teachers, past and stuff, they really do mean a lot. Like they sort of spur you on to think, oh, well, maybe I don't suck at this, Maybe I can actually do something else and try again. And
Yeah, I
uh,
got a trophy and everything.
that's, I can't help it, but this is kind of a cool segue into, fall contests at InScribe, um, that we as an organization sponsor. Every year we have contests. And unfortunately, at the time that we are recording this, I think the entries have closed. You can't have any more submissions, but it's really a great way, not just to not just so that you can win, but it also helps with honing your writing skills because you get critiques and feedback. So contests are good. Thank you for sharing that about that contest.
Yeah, I've entered a few contests too, since I started writing regularly.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes you don't win, but you sure get a lot of good advice. So
Yes.
I would recommend that to any writer. Just enter one if it's not too expensive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is, yeah, because you just get so much value. Like you say, even if there is an entry fee, you do gain a lot from that. Yeah. Well, this has been so lovely. It's been so nice to meet you. We've never actually met in person before, so this has been delightful for me to get to see you and talk to you just a little bit. We're very excited. The anthology is actually releasing in September of
yeah,
2024. So that's going to be great. And we'll get it in our hands and actually be able to read through all those pieces. So
yeah, I can't wait to read it.
yeah, yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. And it's always exciting to have, a piece that you've written in something published. So congratulations.
I have 3 other books that I've self-published,
Mhm.
and two are part of a 3-book, well, a trilogy, I guess you'd call it, for young adults, and the one is just a fairy tale for kids. And my daughter did the pictures for me.
Oh, wonderful. So do you go by what is your author name then if somebody wanted to find those books?
It's either just Heidi Richardson, or on my books it says H.M. Richardson.
Right.
So yeah, like either one of those things should Google me.
Yes, right, right. So those are young adult, you say? Are they like any other particular genre,
Yeah, they're fantasy. They're sort of like allegories of truth, like C.S. Lewis's Narnia series.
Oh, exciting. Well,
A little
that's
bit,
cool.
yeah, a bit like that.
Yeah, yeah.
So I talk about the Lord and Jesus, but I never use their actual names because this is a different world.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So,
Yeah.
do you have like a website or are you on social media where people could get a hold of you?
Yeah, I have a Facebook business page. Yeah,
Cool.
so then it'll pop up when somebody searches my name.
I take it that's fairly recent then that you've been publishing those novels.
Yeah, I just started in COVID,
Okay.
because we were all stuck at home and there was nothing to do, and I kind of had lost hope because of my few forays out into publishing. I sort of lost hope that it would work.
Hmm.
They first came out in December of 2021. Well, the first one, the second one, April 2022. And this last one has just been out for 6 months, I guess.
Exciting. Well, that's wonderful because that's another little testimony, I guess, that fits with the theme of this anthology, even though you didn't write about it, but the whole, that whole chaotic time during COVID, how that led to some creativity spurt, if you will, which led
Yeah.
to the books. So that's really cool.
Yeah, it felt like the Lord was really pushing me into it.
Yeah,
And so I kind of said to him, well, I don't think it's going to do anything, but since you want me to, I guess I will.
right. And I think that's really the key, isn't it? It's obedience. It's
Yeah.
whether one makes much money or whether, your books sell well or whether one becomes famous, whatever the case might be. It's really just about obedience, right? Because uh, our stories have value and somebody out there is going to be affected by your stories. So that's really lovely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I'm
I'm
glad.
gonna have to say adios, I guess, but it's been really nice talking to you, and
Yeah.
hopefully we'll chat again. So, thank you so much for doing this today. I really appreciate it.